Hello everyone and welcome! Last month a critically acclaimed show which stars Bob Odenkirk returned to our screens for its latest season, and I've seen a lot of you leave comments on my YouTube channel asking me to talk about the show. So that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. In this video I'm going to be talking about this show which stars Bob Odenkirk. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Undone.
What?
Well, what other Bob Odenkirk show did you think I was going to talk about? Of course it's going to be Undone. Please don't unsubscribe. This video does contain spoilers from the show. It contains spoilers from both Season 1 and 2, although I've tried not to go too hard into spoiler territory in regards to Season 2, but please do keep that in mind. So anyway, without further ado, let's begin. I originally watched the first season of Undone back in 2020 on Amazon Prime UK, and I really liked it. In fact, back then I wrote a script detailing how much I liked the show, but for whatever reason I just never got around to making the video. Fast forward to a week ago and I'm sat at home, I'm sat there bored and I'm going through the shows on Amazon Prime trying to find something to watch. And that's when I find out the second season of this show actually came out this year on April 29th. Now, I'd seen no adverts for the show's second season. In fact, it was only through sheer luck that I found the show in the first place back in 2020. And I just can't understand why Amazon aren't promoting this show more. It kind of feels like they made this show and then they just put it on their platform to die. They just don't care about it, which is a shame because it deserves better. To me, this is the best Amazon Prime original which I've watched alongside Invincible and The Boys. It's one of their best shows. And now I'm having to do Amazon's job for them. No, I'm not delivering your parcels. I'm telling you that you need to watch this show. So the first thing that you're going to notice about Undone is the way that it looks. Undone uses a technique called rotoscoping, in which the scenes are filmed with actors and they're filmed in a real location, and then animation is added to it after in the editing process. Now, admittedly, I don't really know anything about rotoscoping, but I have included a link in this video's description which explains it in a bit more detail and explains, how it came to be and how it's used on Undone. This art style is going to be divisive. It's not going to be for everyone. In fact, I recommended this show to a friend of mine after I finished the second season, and he said to me that if it were not for me recommending it to him, if he had just come across this show on Amazon's app somehow, if he magically came across it, he wouldn't have watched it because he would have taken one look at the art style and gone, nope, this looks terrible. However, I really like this art style. I think it fits in perfectly with Undone's narrative because Undone's narrative is very kind of dreamlike, very surreal, very all over the place, and so is this art style. So for me, it's a perfect match. It complements the story. It also allows for a lot of crazy scenes, a lot of colourful, crazy scenes to take place. And yes, you could argue that this could be done with CGI and it could be done without this, rotoscoping, but I don't know, it wouldn't be as memorable if it was just standard CGI in my opinion. So yeah, I really like this art style. I also like the way the backgrounds look because the backgrounds kind of look like just 2D like drawings or like 2D paintings even. And it looks like the characters are, well, you've got 3D characters walking and with like 2D backgrounds in the back, which again just gives a whole like surreal vibe to it. It looks really strange, but I like it. Again, not everyone's going to like it. I understand that, but I enjoy this art style. Anyway, I know this video is called Recommending Undone, but I found the first episode of this show to be quite underwhelming. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you watch this show, and if after the first episode you're like, I'm not really sure, please just carry on because it gets so much better. Episode 2 is so interesting. Episode 1 is just setting the scene, characters talking, not really a lot going on. And then episode 2 happens and it's like, whoa, what the hell? It's just crazy shit happening. Like the shift in tone from episode 1 to 2 is such a colossal shift in tone that it felt like someone spiked my drink. It was just fucking insane, but I loved it. So the protagonist of Undone is a lady named Alma, or Alma, but I think we'd say Alma in the UK, so I'm just going to stick with Alma. But anyway, yes, Alma, she crashes her car at the end of episode 1, and she sees like a vision of her dead dad who died previously in a car crash. And then in episode 2, she's in hospital and she's still seeing her dead dad, and her dad tells her that because of her car crash, her brain has now been rewired and she now has the ability to tap into these time travel powers that she has. But at this point in time, Alma is not able to control her time travel powers, which just leads to absolutely batshit crazy stuff happening. So for example, in this episode, she experiences time in a non-linear fashion. She also ends up seeing these really fucked up, like weird visions, and she also gets stuck in various time loops. I particularly love the time loop which involves the hospital elevator. So Alma's in the hospital bed and she wants to escape the hospital, so she gets out of bed and runs towards the elevator. And then when she gets there, she sees another version of herself already there, like pressing buttons inside the elevator. And Alma's like, what the hell is going on? At which point the other Alma says, we're in a time loop, we need to get out of here. And then as the episode progresses, this time loop comes full circle. And then our Alma, she again goes to the elevator and she gets in the elevator this time and she's mashing on the buttons. And then the other Alma comes and she's like, what's going on? And then of course our Alma then explains it's a time loop and says what we've already seen to her past self. And yeah, that's the kind of writing which makes me fall in love with this show because it's really clever. You know, I love time travel stories when they're done correctly, and you know, when there's thought put into it. Yeah, this is just kind of writing which instantly made me fall in love with the show. As season 1 progresses, it kind of does feel at times like Undone is almost a superhero origin story, especially in the episode Moving the Keys, because in that episode, Alma has like some keys that are set on a table, and her father is trying to tell her to move time forward so that someone will come in and pick up these keys. So, and he's trying to teach her, you know, how to control her powers. And I really like that in this show, you know, Alma doesn't just get her powers and then instantly become a Time Lord. You know, she has to take her time, pun. But yeah, it takes her time to develop her powers, you know. It's not as just a simple case of her having a car crash and then becoming super powered. She really struggles with it. And I like this because 1, when she does actually have control of her powers, it makes it feel earned. And 2, it allows for absolute crazy shit to happen where, you know, she's not got control of her powers and all kinds of weird stuff is happening. I also like that Undone makes a point of explaining just how taxing these powers are, you know, just how physically and emotionally taxing they are. I mean, I think Jacob says that his mother, Geraldine, she tried to do this. She had these similar powers and she ended up going crazy as a result of using them, and her mind got stuck in different places. So again, I really like that as well. Jacob spends a lot of his time this season by Alma's side, trying to push her to learn how to control her powers. And the reason why he wants to do this is because he died in a car crash, but even though he has time travel abilities, he said he can't go back to the scene of his crime and he can't go back and prevent himself from dying for some reason because something just pushes him away from it. A force just pushes him away from it and he can't go back. So he needs Alma to develop her powers to prevent him from dying. This, of course, means that Alma and her father, Jacob, spend a lot of time together in season 1. And I really like this pairing. I think these pair have great chemistry. I have seen that some people find Alma a bit annoying. I've seen some people on Reddit say that she's a bit too quirky for their taste. And, you know, she's always coming up with one-liners and thinks she's funny. But I actually do find her funny. I really like her as a character. And I think that her attitude, you know, her over-the-top attitude actually bounces off quite nicely with Jacob's attitude because he's more laid back, he's more stoic. And I think they complement each other well. So Undone's time travel stuff is all great and all, but for me, what really makes this show, what really elevates it above other time travel stories, is how this all ties into Alma's mental health struggles. Despite me not really enjoying the first episode, there's a really nice scene in that episode which shows Alma's daily routine, and it shows her, it's like a montage, it shows her waking up, getting dressed, going to work, coming home, blah blah blah, and it repeats and repeats, and I guess it's just trying to show how bored she is of her what she perceives to be her average life. And after watching this scene, I did have my suspicions that Alma might be depressed, and then later on we learned that Alma actually tried to take her life after her father died. So yeah, it's obvious that she has depression, to quite an extreme degree. We also learned that Alma's grandmother Geraldine was schizophrenic, and that she used to talk to people who weren't in the room, who others couldn't see. And it's worth noting that Alma is the only one who can see her dead father. And her boyfriend also remarks that those who are schizophrenic often feel like they're on some quest, they're on some mission, you know, they have some divine right, some divine goal. And in this season, you know, Alma clearly believes that it's her mission to save her father. So this begs all kinds of questions. Is what we're seeing actually happening? Can Alma travel back in time? Or is she just mentally ill? Is this just all in her own head? Well, the show doesn't answer those questions because season 1 ends on an ambiguous note. So at the end of the season, Alma has gone back in time to prevent her father's death, or, well, at least she thinks she has. Whether it happened or not is up for debate. But yes, she goes back in time to prevent her father from dying. And then after that, in the present, she goes to Mexico because she believes that she needs to go outside this cave, outside this temple, because this is the point in which the timelines will converge, you know, with the new timeline crossing over, which means her dad will now be alive. And he will magically reappear from the cave and he will be alive again. And season 1's finale ends with Alma sitting outside the cave, waiting for her father to return before the screen fades to black. And I absolutely love this ending. I know that some people don't like ambiguous endings, but I think that when ambiguous endings are done right, they can be really good, and I think this ending is absolutely perfect. I love that it's up to the viewer's interpretation as to what happened, you know, during the show. Is it real or is it not real? And honestly, I never expected a follow-up to season 1. I would just happily have had the story end there on this ambiguous note. I was quite happy with that. I was quite satisfied. And one of the worries I had going into season 2 was that I thought that surely if they're going to make a second season of this show, the writers are going to have to either pick, you know, 1 or 2 options. Either it is real or either it's not. Surely they can't keep leading the audience and, you know, having us guess, oh, is it real, is it not, for a second season of the entire show. Surely they have to pick just one ending, you know, one truth. And I was kind of worried that that would kind of ruin the ambiguous ending of season 1. Where in season 2, they do the exact same thing. Season 2 also ends on an ambiguous note. We also don't know if it's real or if it isn't real. But somehow it also remains satisfying to watch. It's really strange that we've got 2 seasons of this show which doesn't explain, you know, it doesn't give you the answers. It doesn't explain it. In fact, both seasons, end in pretty much exactly the same manner where you're questioning whether what has happened. Yet I felt satisfied. I never felt annoyed. I didn't feel pissed off. I felt the ending to both seasons were absolutely fantastic. And I know not everyone's going to agree with me, and there will be some people who get annoyed that, with 2 seasons in, they may feel like the second season is a bit of a retread because it doesn't answer any questions really, but I loved it. I love that, both possibilities are still true. Alma can either be a time traveler, she can either have these powers, or she could be mentally ill. I love that these two options are still very much a real thing. I love that both of these options could be valid. I really like that. I don't really want to say too much about season 2 because I don't want to ruin it for you. Just watch it. In my opinion, it's actually better than season 1. I wasn't convinced at first. After the first 3 or 4 episodes, I was kind of thinking, where the hell is this going? I'm not too sure about this. But the latter half just kind of brings it all together. And then you gain a new appreciation for those previous episodes. And yeah, by the time I was finished, I was like, yeah, this is phenomenal. This is so much better than season 1. And season 1 is pretty damn good anyway. So yeah, I don't want to talk about season 2, but I do want to talk about one thing. I do really want to talk about one thing because I love how season 2 ties back into the first season of the show. So the episodes of Undone, they're only like 20 minutes long. There's 8 episodes a season. So you could, in theory, get through this in a day or 2. And I think that's probably the best way to watch this show. Because, yeah, when I watched it again, when I binged through it again, season 1 to 2, yeah, it really helps because a lot of it is in season 2 is scenes we've already seen from season 1 playing out from a different point of view, and I really like that. So remember how I said that Geraldine had schizophrenia and actually used to talk to people who weren't there? So in season 1 we have this scene of Jacob as a kid, and it shows him sitting in his front room, and it shows his mother Geraldine there, and she's like talking to people who we can't see, like people who aren't there, and that's showing her schizophrenia, showing her symptoms of her schizophrenia. Then in season 2 we go back to this scene, but we see it with an entirely new context, because in season 2, Alma keeps going back in time to visit Geraldine. She has to go back to visit her. I won't spoil why, but she goes back in time to visit Geraldine. And in season 2, we see her visit Geraldine in this exact same scene. And it turns out that Geraldine isn't talking to, the invisible person. She's talking to Alma. And this just raises more and more questions. Did Geraldine have schizophrenia, or was she just being tormented by her future granddaughter who kept visiting her all the time, and she can only see her? It just gives you an entire different viewpoint of events that have already happened. Or could it be that this entire scene of Alma going back in time to visit her grandmother is just a creation that she's created in her own head to justify her grandmother's mental illness, which in turn will then justify her own schizophrenia and, make her think, no, I'm not actually crazy because I have powers like my grandmother did, and my grandmother wasn't crazy because I went back in the past. It kind of validates her feelings that she isn't crazy. So again, it just provides more questions, more mysteries, more discussion points, and I love it. I love that after 2 seasons of this show, it's still up for debate. Is it real? Is it not real? I love that. And I'm sure that if I watched a different show that after 2 seasons didn't provide me any answers, I'd probably fucking hate it. But the reason why it succeeds in Undone is because the writing is so damn good. It really is kind of incredible that Undone has created 2 seasons which both have ambiguous endings, which somehow both feel satisfying to watch. I was satisfied with both these seasons. I didn't find myself going, I wish they answered that. Oh, that's so annoying. I watched these seasons and they both raise questions. They both raise more questions than they answer. And I was completely happy with that because the writing's so good. And I really like the ending. So yeah, it really is a fantastic achievement. But anyway, that's about all I want to talk about this show. I don't want to go into too much detail, about everything else, about all the plot points, etc. because you just need to watch it. I really like this. I rate this as one of my favourite shows. And one of the best shows you can watch on Amazon Prime. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you heard of Undone? Will you watch it? Did you like this video? Whatever your thoughts, so let me know. And I shall see you all very soon. Take care. Goodbye.